You mentioned A Piece of My Heart. There's a book with a title that's a little scary, isn't it?
Yeah, it was just at the time I had no idea that I was going to have a heart attack. I'd already started writing Piece of My Heart. So
By that title?
Mm-hmm, by that title.
That's really prophetic.
Yeah, yeah.
Ooh.
And I thought, well, I might as well keep it.
So you were, if I remember right, you were where, at a literary conference in Banff?
Oh, yeah, in Banff, which is about an hour and a half, more or less, west of Calgary, and it's in the Rockies. And it's a wonderful festival. I mean, they have a festival in Calgary, the Word Fest, and then Vancouver Literary Festival. And usually what they do with the writers is they send them to Banff for like 3 or 4 days, R&R between the two festivals.
At the Banff Springs Hotel?
No, it's at the Banff Arts Centre. But it's a beautiful setting.
I
mean, it's absolutely gorgeous. It's surrounded by snow-capped mountains and pure lakes, and the elks stand on the pathways. You have to walk around them and that. And yeah, it was there, but I just didn't feel very well. I mean, it wasn't. There were no classic symptoms. Thought I was a little short of breath because of the altitude. You know, it's quite high up. But beyond that, you know, there was no pain or anything.
Your left arm didn't hurt or anything?
No, my left arm didn't hurt at all. You know, so and I had to do a reading, and I wasn't feeling great. So one of the volunteers had been a doctor, was a retired doctor, and said, "You don't look too good." You know, said, "Yeah, can I go on first and then go back and lie down?" And she said, "Well, maybe you should get checked out." You know, I said, "That'll be all right." She said, "I think you probably should." And anyway, she insisted and took me herself down to the emergency. And it was 3 o'clock on a Sunday afternoon, a little hospital in Banff. There's nobody there except me and the doctor and a nurse. And he just got me down and stuck the ECG on and said, "Oh, you're having a heart attack." Am I going to die? Said, "Well, we'll do our best to prevent that." So.
And what did it turn? Did you have to have, you know, bypass surgery or anything exciting?
No. No, the most exciting thing I had was morphine, actually.
Ooh, gives you real research job.
They asked me if I wanted some more. I said, "Are you crazy?" I had to have angioplasty after they took me to Calgary because they couldn't keep me there. And there's a great hospital in Calgary, Foothills Hospital, and I was there about 3 days, and they did this angiogram, and at the same time they did it, they put a couple of stents in and sent me packing the next day. My cardiologist was called Michael Connolly.
How funny. Oh, dear. We were once called on a flight from Chicago to Manchester, and right before us, Michael Connolly was supposed to board. Rob and I were looking wildly around O'Hare thinking, "Oh, surely not."
Not that one.
And sure enough, it wasn't. But, you know, we were at the Banff Springs Hotel last October. We took the train, the Rocky Mountaineer, from Vancouver to Banff, which is one of the great train trips.
It's beautiful, yeah.
And I thought about you because we stayed in the Banff Springs Hotel. Now, this was October.
I have been there. It is nice.
It's gorgeous. And they have already closed the golf course, and this is the winter wonderland for the elk. So you can go out, and I actually saw 2 stags having a fight with all this peculiar sound where they're
quite dangerous.
They are, and their antlers click, and it sounded almost, I can't describe really what the sound of the you know, antlers striking each other. It was the weirdest sound. But at one point they have a beautiful pool at the hotel, and it's snowing, and Rob and I are in this gorgeous outdoor pool looking at the mountains. Snow is coming down, and this enormous elk comes strolling up the hill, sees the steam, thinks it's a really good idea, and he folds himself up right on the edge of the pool, sticks his face into the steam. And it was just, you know, it was so wonderful. And I thought, I wish I were a writer so that I could, because it's the sort of thing you would really like to put
moments like
in
that,
a book. Yeah. But then I said to Rob, the other person I know has been in Banff is Peter, and he had heart attacks.
Well, I was back there again. Well, I was in Calgary again last year, and I was fine. But the funny thing was, you did the best train journey, the one from Vancouver over the mountains. But because I'd had this angioplasty and heart attack, I wasn't supposed to fly for like 2 weeks after they kicked me out of hospital.
Right.
So we had to take the train back to Toronto, which meant we had to go to Edmonton to pick it up. And we got all the flat stuff. So
Was it any good?
it's-
You know, I've always thought of the Dick Francis book because
Yeah,
I've
The
wanted
Edge,
to
yeah.
take that. What was The Edge? Is
Well,
it?
I mean, yeah, The Edge. To be honest, I mean, I enjoyed it just because it was relaxing. You know, I had a nice, comfortable sleeper. You go down for dinner. I mean, you know, you read, you go up to the observation car, watch the landscape going by. So, I mean, it's fun. But the landscape, the prairie landscape, the Northern Ontario landscape, get a bit monotonous
Kind of like Kansas, isn't it?
forever.
I think about Kansas, people say there's nothing but there.
Right.
kind of sums it up. Well, what are your plans for Banks? You've done a whole slug of novels, and you've had a wonderful time taking him through various career and personal changes. What do you see looming in his future?
Well, I just finished the next one, which is called All the Colors of Darkness.
Oh, good title.
Again, it's an old song, but not many people will know where it's from. We ought to run a competition, although you can look anything up on Wikipedia or something now.
What kind of a competition?
You know, guess where the song comes from and win a free copy of the book. But anyone, as I say,
okay.
anyone can look it
I
up.
thought you meant name the title. I mean, give you a title.
Oh,
but
that would be useful. This actually was unusual because I didn't get the title till I'd finished the book, and it had been through several other titles. At one time I'd called it Fixing to Die. One time I just wasn't sure what to call it, and you know, finally I was looking through my songs on my iPod and found that one, and I think it works, and it works nicely with the plot too. So yeah, it's. And I also I sort of like to alternate a little between who has the worst time of it. Annie had a really bad time in the last book, so
True.
you know, so this time Banks does worse than Annie. She has a slightly better time.
Are you keeping them sort of as a pair?
Yeah, they work
A
well.
detecting pair?
Yeah, they work well together. I mean, you know, despite the little displays of unrequited lust and, you know,
I thought it was unslaked, actually,
unslaked.
because
Well,
they have
it has
requited
been.
it.
Years ago, it was
Right.
required. Yeah, despite the sexual tension that occasionally bursts through into usually fights or arguments or whatever, they do work very well together, and they do sort of knock sparks off each other in a creative sort of way. So they're a good team to have. Yeah.
Where are the Banks children? They have been in and out of the books and going through their painful teenage years. And
Yes, it's maybe time for something involving one of them. You know, I've thought about it more than once. Certainly Brian Banks' son, who's a musician and is doing very well.
but he had a piece of one of the books. I'm trying to remember which one it was. If he wasn't involved, he was certainly in a relationship with his father. I'm trying to remember.
Yeah.
It was. Didn't he go to London? Didn't Banks go to London in that book?
Yeah, and I think it was in a dry season. He went to listen to him play in a club, and you know.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean they do have a relationship, and in fact I think in either in Friend of the Devil or probably Piece of My Heart, he has dinner with Brian and his new girlfriend.
Right.
So he comes and goes, and Banks' daughter has finished university, hasn't got a job yet, I think. So, but Brian's doing very well in the music business. I mean, his band is doing really, really well. So I've thought of maybe something that would involve him, you know, some criminal thing that he
Well,
would.
give you a chance to sort of get back into the music, which
Yeah.
might be fun anyway,
Yeah.
although I think the daughter would be interesting. One of the things I've always liked about the Wexfords, the Ruth Rendell Forever series, although she varies even more than, you know, most authors, she goes off and
Yes.
writes lots of other books, but Wexford and his daughter particularly, I think, have had a
Yeah.
wonderful relationship over the years.
Yeah, it's been a difficult one too, and
Absolutely.
Yeah, the actress. Yeah.
But I think that the Banks children are really, you know, kind of worth more
they're-
time with.
They're there, and they will have problems.
Since you have chosen to do a policeman, you can't really give him jurisdiction that allows him to go off, you know, slope off through the tunnel very often. I suppose you could send him off to do, you know, chase something once in a while. Have you thought about, you know, if you retired him and he took private work or something, moving him around more? Or do you think that people really want to read you and Yorkshire? Is it sort of an indissoluble bond?
Well, I think they like Yorkshire. Although there have been several books in which Banks has kind of taken off, usually to London, and
Right.
acted as something of a private investigator.
Well, I was thinking about
he-
out of the country. I mean, it's hard to
Yeah.
be a British policeman and be of any particular use on the continent.